So in this video, I'll be giving you guys 3 teams I believe could regress in the 2020 NFL season. I don't think these teams will fall off the face of the earth and be terrible, but I think based on their 2019 performance and how well they did, I think they have a chance to regress and not really live up to what they did in the 2019 season. So with that being said, let's get into it and leave in the comments some teams you expect to regress in the 2020 NFL season. So number 1, based off the thumbnail as we know, is the Minnesota Vikings, and this is a team that went 11-5 last year. Kirk Cousins had the best year of his career, which is great obviously. They did lose in the divisional round to the San Francisco 49ers. It was a blowout, but still, they made it pretty far. They won a playoff game in New Orleans, which is huge because a lot of people, myself included, thought Kirk Cousins could not win the big game. He won a playoff game in New Orleans, which is tough to do, obviously. So now Gary Kubiak takes over as the offensive coordinator, which I think could hurt this team. Not that Kubiak's bad, he has a good history, but they lose Kevin Stefanski, who I'm a big fan of, and once Stefanski took over, that's when Kirk Cousins had the best year of his career, and that's a pretty large sample size because Cousins has been the starter since about 2015 or so we're talking 5-6 seasons basically, and Cousins has his best year under Stefanski, and now he's in Cleveland. They also get rid of Stephon Diggs. They thought they got a good return for him, not gonna lie, but he's a good receiver. He's had over 1,000 yards for them the past couple years. Obviously one of the best route runners in football, explosive player. They'll try to replace him with Justin Jefferson, who I think will have a bright career in the future. I don't expect him to be as good as Stephon Diggs in his rookie year. I'm just being honest. So Everson Griffin's not going to return, a good defensive end. Even last year was still productive, had 8 sacks as well. They lose Linval Joseph to the Chargers in free agency. Xavier Rhodes is gone. Trey Waynes is gone. So they also added Jeff Gladney, the cornerback, in the first round. I have to include a really explosive athlete. I don't know if I'll put it together in year 1, but I'm very excited for him. I think one day he could be a really good corner in this league, so I'll have to wait and see. But like when you think of the best players on the Vikings of the past 5 to 7 years, a lot of their core pieces are now gone. Like you think of guys like Everson Griffin and Linval Joseph, Xavier Rhodes, even Stephon Diggs. Like those are big pieces and big shoes to fill. I know they tried to replace them with some other pieces via the draft and stuff like that, but I just don't expect them to be that good as they were last year, because going from Stephon Diggs to a rookie Justin Jefferson and then going from Trey Waynes to a rookie Jeff Gladney, it's not going to be the same thing in my opinion. Maybe they take huge strides in their rookie year, but I just don't see it happening. So I think this is more of an 8 or 9 win team. Maybe you think differently, but I just don't see them having the firepower that they did last year, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, and if you followed me for a long time, I was all over the Packers last year. I love what they did last offseason, but this offseason, I don't know what happened. I mean, their route in the draft made absolutely no sense. I mean, I guess Jordan Love's a good prospect and all. He has a lot of good tools. I'm not a big fan of him. I'll admit I didn't watch every game of his, but he made too many mistakes and just turning the ball over, in my opinion, for me to take him that early. And Aaron Rodgers, I know, is like 36, 37 years old, but he's still playing at a very high level, and we're now in an age where quarterbacks are playing well into their early 40s, and Aaron Rodgers has had no plans of retiring. He's never like hinted at it or anything like that, kind of like Brett Favre used to. It's not like that. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is close to slowing down, in my opinion, so it really made no sense where they were going in that regard. They needed playmakers in the draft. They don't do that. They got a running back who's 250 pounds, a tight end who I've never heard of. Like, I don't know what their direction was in the draft exactly, but they needed receiver help, especially wide receiver on the outside, to complement Devontae Adams. They didn't even do it. So that's just, it's not good to me, and Jordan Love's going to be an option to sit on the bench for at least a couple of years in my mind, assuming that Rodgers is either, traded or maybe he's not healthy. That's the only way Jordan Love's going to get in there. I don't think Rodgers will be benched, so I just feel like this is not an investment that's going to help them in 2020. So some guys they lost, one was Tramon Williams, who's been there forever. I mean, he's been there in 2007 basically. Since then, a couple other stops that went back to Green Bay, still played at a pretty high level the past couple of years. They lost Brian Bulaga, a really reliable right tackle for them for probably the last, I'm trying to think, maybe 6-7 years or so. Blake Martinez went to the Giants, one of their leading tacklers, probably the leading tackler on that team for the past 3 or 4 years. They lost Jimmy Graham, who I'll admit is kind of like a, shell of his former self. Geronimo Allison, I think, went to the Lions or something like that. Kyler Fackrell a couple years ago was huge for them until they got the Smith brothers. And then B.J. Goodson, who was a good depth piece at linebacker. So they lose all those guys. And I know I picked 2 teams from the same division, so I feel like both of them won't be bad. But for the Packers to go 13-3 again next year and make it to the NFC Championship game, I just don't see that happening. I could be wrong. I just don't see how it's possible. That team just doesn't have the firepower. I think Devin Funchess announced he's sitting out the season as well, so that's another wide receiver they signed that's not going to help the team in 2020. Maybe a guy like Alan Lazard steps up or something like that, but I just don't see how this team has the offensive firepower. As I said, they drafted the 250-pound running back in round 2, but you already have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, and those guys are fine. So, I don't know why you're wasting a second-round pick on a running back that you didn't necessarily need. I just feel like a lot of their moves were building for the future. I mean, I just don't get it. They were one win away. I know they lost very badly in that game to Raheem Mostert, but they were one win away from making it to the Super Bowl, and here they are basically punting 2020, it feels like, and playing for the future. I could be wrong, but it's just I just did not see the direction they were going in this offseason. It made no sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm not gauging the Packers properly, but I feel like based on what other people are saying as well, a lot of others are confused about the offseason they had. So I personally don't get it. I could be wrong. Maybe they somehow replicate a 13-3 season, but I definitely see their wins dropping in 2020. Lastly, we have the Seattle Seahawks. This is a pick that I'm not too confident in, but they've lost some pieces this offseason that do concern me. So, of course, their big move was acquiring Jamal Adams, which will help them a lot for present day. I thought the Jets got a better end of that deal because of the 2 first-round picks, obviously, so we'll have to see what happens. But, of course, Jamal Adams for this year makes them a better team as if he was not there. So, for Seattle, they lost some pretty key pieces. Jadeveon Clowney, assuming he doesn't re-sign. They lose George Fant, who started some games for them last year. DJ Fluker was a starting guard for them the past couple years. Justin Britt started at center for them for a while. Ziggy Ansah, who's definitely not the player he used to be, but could have been good. Jerron Brown, Josh Gordon, who could have been an explosive player. Then Michael Kendricks, who's still an average to above average linebacker. So they lose some pieces here, and their offensive line now has 3 new starters, I believe. Their center, right guard, and right tackle spot are all new players, so that's definitely a concerning one as well. Seattle was 9-2 last year in 1-score games. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what happens to the Chargers a lot. The Chargers are the type of team that always struggles in 1-score games, but that one year they were good, 2 years ago, they did well in 1-score games. So that kind of stuff fluctuates year in and year out. I know they have Russell Wilson, which makes it easier, but you never know. If you play in that many 1-score games, maybe you end up going 3-8 the next year instead of 9-2. You never know. So I don't want to say Seattle got lucky, but there's definitely some concerns there. I'm still a fan of the linebackers and secondary for sure. I'm a fan of their playmakers on the outside. They added Greg Olsen. We'll see if he can stay healthy. If he is healthy, that's a nice addition, obviously. I like their running backs as well. Rashad Penny hopefully will come back healthy, but their offensive line concerns me for sure. I know they have a very, very good superstar elite quarterback, but if he wasn't there, I don't see this roster being very good in my mind. I could be wrong about this team, but they're in a tough division, obviously, with the Niners, the Cardinals, who I think are on the come up, and the Rams, who could bounce back from last year. The Rams could be a team that declines as well. Not really sure what to think about them, honestly, but they could go back to their old ways and be a better team. We'll have to wait and see, but for Seattle, the new offensive line starters concern me for sure. Their lack of pass rush concerns me for sure. I don't know where they're going to get it from. They could sign Clowney back. He's not signed yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, they have to sign Jamal Adams to an extension, so I'm not sure what extra money they'll have laying around, but I guess we'll find out. But that'll do it for my list. Let me know in the comments if you agree, and once again, leave in the comments some teams you think can decline in this 2020 season. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.